You might have seen a lot of videos about the brand new one-click delete and fill feature, but Adobe's not telling you the whole story. This is the official Adobe article, and they are saying to make it happen, to make it work, you need to make a selection with the object selection tool and hit Shift and Delete key to instantly remove your selection. Let's try that. So here in Photoshop, we have selected the object selection tool. It's going to identify the objects and I'm going to select this one. Just click on this one. And what is the shortcut the article said? Shift delete, right? And by the way, this is at the moment of recording this video. Maybe they will change it after watching this video. So let's press Shift delete. Well, it fills it with the background color. So whatever is in the background color, it's going to fill it with that. So right now the background color is white. So if we press Shift delete, that's what it fills it with. It's not supposed to happen that way, right? The right shortcut if you're working on Windows is Shift Backspace instead. And there you go, it works. I don't know who's writing this article, but anyway, let's zoom in. It leaves no traces. I know it's not a perfect job, but it leaves no lines. Otherwise, we would have to expand and then fill it with probably content-aware fill. But maybe this shortcut will work on a Mac. Let's try it. So we're going to click on the man and we're going to press the shortcut, Shift and delete, right? So Shift delete. Yeah. It's working on a Mac. So yesterday when I tried this shortcut, it brought up the fill dialog box, which it shouldn't do. So if you want a sure shot way of this to work, you can always right click on the object and then choose delete and fill selection. This will always work, no matter if the shortcuts work or not. Just a quick heads up, in this video, we're going to be mixing up the features of the brand new Photoshop 2023 along with Photoshop's public beta, which is also recently updated. So if you don't know how to install the public beta, you need to open up your Creative Cloud application and inside of that, go to Beta Apps section, and from there you can just install whatever beta version of whatever software you want. The next feature is live gradients, and I have a lot of affinity towards this feature. You'll see why. So with this feature you can create adjustable gradients right on the canvas. So let's choose the gradient tool, and now if you draw a gradient, have a look, you have a live preview of the gradient. You can adjust the gradient, you can add points just like this. You can change the colors of each point. So I can double click on it. I can change the color of it to whatever I want. And on top of that, you can control the opacities as well. As you can see, this area is transparent. Now you can go to the properties panel. If you cannot see it, go to window and then make sure properties is checked. Now inside of that, you can control every aspect of this gradient. Now, are we just going to ignore the elephant in the room? Of course not. And also the fact that this feature is kind of very similar to a feature in another software. So this, my friend, is my affinity towards Photoshop 2023. And by the way, this feature has been there in Affinity Photo for a very, very long time, actually ages. So let's choose the gradient tool right there. And if you do make a gradient, it is the exact same thing. So finally, I'm happy that this feature made to Photoshop, but then again, only to Photoshop beta, not the main version. So we still have to wait for it. But then again, to Adobe's defense, they have dozens of features that Affinity Photo does not have. Now let's create a different type of gradient. Let's create the radial gradient. And let's say we want to create a lens flare. So just drag from the center. Let's change the blend mode from normal to screen. Now what we want in the center is bright yellow. So let's pick that, something like this. Now, as it fades away, we want a reddish color. So right here, we want it to be reddish. Hit OK for now. So how do we create that flare? We need to make it transparent as it goes. And for that, let's open up the properties panel. So let's go to window and make sure properties is checked. And right in here, we need to set in the opacity controls. The right hand side has the reds. So as it flows towards the red, we want it to be absolutely transparent. So let's take the transparency all the way to the right hand side. We took the opaque one away and make sure the opacity is at 0. And there we have our gradient. And you can change the color anytime you wish. You can double click on it and we're going to change it to red, something like this. And then you can extend it as much as you want. You can just move the position of it. This is just so cool. Now I'm going to share with you one more trick. This is not a new feature, but you're going to have a lot of fun with it. So when you do make a gradient, first of all, let's make a gradient for the background. And now here's the fun part. Once you have made the gradient, you can go to properties and instead of selecting one color, let's choose from the type from solid to noise. You have a lot of colors in there. Now that's too many colors. So how do we make it smoother? Just decrease the roughness. So we're going to decrease the roughness to about 8 or 9, whatever works for you. And then just click on randomize. That's it. So you can click on randomize and generate random colors. So that way you can just create unlimited amount of gradients for your backdrops, images, grading, whatever you wish. Before we continue, this video has a sponsor and this video is sponsored by PiXimperfect. Yes, we just launched the official PiXimperfect compositing plugin. It is approved by Adobe. So you can simply go to your Creative Cloud application and inside the plugin section, search for it. and install it. As easy as that. It has everything you need for compositing, organized, easy, with few clicks, and absolutely non-destructive. You can extract shadows automatically with just 2 buttons, match colors with 1 click for analyzing the background colors, and 1 click to apply the same colors with curves or a gradient adjustment layer that you can adjust. You can remove halos and add feather with just 2 buttons, or access advanced techniques for perfect hair selection instantly. The entire process of compositing is arranged in the right order, from importing and arranging to applying finishing touches like color grading presets or overlays. And by the way, the color grading presets are unlimited and adjustable. The arrangement module is absolutely free to use. You can import and stack multiple photos with just a click, all backgrounds removed automatically, and you can arrange and also align all of the elements for placement. Besides that, advanced hairbrushes and layer properties are also a free feature. The pro features are very affordable, and we created it keeping both students and professionals in mind. You can just install the plugin. It's free to do so directly from Adobe, and even if you don't need the pro features, the free ones will save you tons of time in your day-to-day Photoshop. You can now apply 3D materials from Adobe Substance to Photoshop. So you need to go to Window and then make sure you click on Materials, and this is the new Materials tab. For some reason, it is still loading. Now to apply to the background wall, first of all, let's separate the subject from the background. And here, just to show you a quick demo of the PiXimperfect compositing panel, you can go to Masking and you can hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on Remove Subject. What that does is that it automatically separates the subject from the background, and in the background keeps just the background. So here we have the background and just the background. On top of that, here we have the subject and just the subject. So let's open back up the Materials tab. It's still not loaded. Thank you, Photoshop. We had to restart the computer, and finally this time I hope it works. Please work. All right. And it did. So let's say you want to apply this particular texture. Let's go for marble. By the way, make sure you have the layer selected where you want to apply it so that it applies just above it. So we're going to go with this one, marble, and that looks pretty great. Let's change the blend mode from normal to overlay, and there you have a fantastic background. I'm going to bring it to the side. Now you can control every aspect of it. You can control the lighting, you can increase the exposure of the background, you can control the direction of light, and it's going to be more evident in the next example. So let's go to Materials and let's go with a 3-dimensional, something that has a bump. So as you can see, there's a shadow of the pattern. So you can go to Lighting and you can control the rotation of the light, and as you do rotate the light, have a look, the shadow changes. So it is just like patterns in Photoshop, but you have a way more controls over it, and it is in 3 dimension. Now you can also control other things, like you can scale the entire thing. Let's repeat uniformly, and if we increase it, have a look, it just becomes smaller. If we decrease it, it becomes larger. So lots of controls here. You can control the bump, the direction of light, the intensity of light, and a bunch of other 3D stuff. But I still miss the OG 3D features in Photoshop. I don't know why they removed it. Maybe I do. They wanted to sell substance. The Object Selection tool's preview color has now changed to magenta for better visibility. Also, if you want to have a border, you can have that. Go to Settings. By the way, you can change it. Earlier, it was blue. Now it's magenta. You can change the outline to something. So let's go for 1.6. Now when you do it, have a look. You also have a border for even better visibility. And that brings us to our next big update, and that is the Object Selection tool now detects the sky. Earlier, it didn't used to do so. So if you hover over the sky, you can click on it and it selects the sky. By the way, it is the same as going to select and then choosing sky. It is the exact same selection, but now you can do it with the Object Selection tool. Just for comparison, as you can see, it can select a bunch of stuff. The sky, the person, these straps, the background as well, a lot of things. Now I have opened the same image in Photoshop 2022, as you can see, version 23.5. Now if you go ahead and choose the Object Selection tool right here, turn on the Object Finder, as you can see, it just detects the subject, not even the straps separately, doesn't detect the background, doesn't detect the sky. So there has been a huge update here. The next feature is only available on Photoshop Beta, and that too also only on a Mac, and that is the live Gaussian blur. And honestly, I don't really see a point of this. So instead of going to Gaussian blur, you would go to Filter, Blur, and then Live Gaussian blur. Now, as the name suggests, as you adjust the blur, it should happen live. It is a little bit slow, but it happens live, as opposed to Gaussian blur, where you go to a value and you release it and then it applies. Here, it just happens simultaneously. You can also choose which areas to blur and which areas to keep in focus. So you can choose the minus brush and you can choose this area to be in focus. It is just like a mask. It is nothing complicated. Have a look at it. You still have this hard edge right here and it just doesn't look right. You can of course fade the amount of blur to create a soft glow effect, and you can output this to a new layer. That's all up to you. The little highlight of this feature is that you can work outside the dialog box, unlike the Gaussian blur. So even with the dialog box open, you can change things like the blend mode. Let's go for screen. You can change the opacity, the fill, and little stuff like that. But with Gaussian blur, you cannot do that. So let's hit cancel for now. So if it's normal, if we go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur, people say I should pronounce it Gaussian blur. So I'm sorry. So now if you do anything right here, you cannot just change stuff. You cannot change the blend mode, the opacity, the fill. So that was one little highlight, but I still don't see any point of this. Here's why I find this feature useless, for now at least. And that is, if you go to filter and first of all convert this layer into a smart object, there's a better filter in Photoshop, and that is filter, blur gallery, and that is tilt shift or even field blur. Or here's an even better one, iris blur. So now I want to keep this area in focus. We're going to enlarge it just like this. And you can actually hold the Alt key or the Option key and bring these points to the place where you want the blur to start. So let's bring them to the face just like this, and have a look. It's a much better feature. Look at how smooth the blur is. There is no hard edge. And if you want a little more customization, you can always use field blur. So let's turn that on. Let's say I want this area to be in focus, this area right here to be absolutely out of focus, this area to be out of focus. So I have extreme control over things and everything is just so soft. So why would I need to use the live Gaussian blur? Now this new feature is only available in Photoshop Beta, and that too only in Windows 11. Now since I'm using Windows 10, we are just going to go through it. I use Windows 10 because I'm scared to be unstable. Anyway, so you can snap layouts with this. So all you need to do is to press Windows plus Z or Z, however you pronounce it, or click on the corner of the window and you will have all of these snapping options. Now here's an interesting feature. You can invite other people to edit your document. Just make sure you make a copy for yourself. Just kidding, you have access to versions. Anyway, just for the safer side, make a copy for yourself. So simply click on share right there and click on invite to edit. Now it's going to tell you that this document needs to be a cloud document to make that possible. So let's click on continue. Let's save it as a cloud document. Now as you can see, it is a PSDC, which means Photoshop document cloud. So I'm just going to invite my other account. You can type in an optional message if you want and click on invite to edit. You can also create a link for the other person by clicking on copy link and just share it with that person, email it or message it, up to you. Hi there, this is Harry Potter, Indian Harry Potter with beard, and seems like Unmesh has sent me a Photoshop document to edit. So if I open my Creative Cloud application, I'm on a Mac by the way. I don't know why he uses Windows, he sucks. So if I go to my notifications, have a look. Unmesh Tinda has invited you to edit this. So let's click on that. So we can simply open it up in Photoshop and click on open. Now first it's going to download the document. Yeah, this is not Hogwarts. The internet is a little slow. Not magical either. Now this is an important warning. It says someone else is editing example 8. So I think Unmesh already has this document open in his silly Windows computer. So let's ask him to close it. So seems like he has closed it. Hit OK. Let's try again. So if you go to home and if you go to shared with you inside of files, you will see that. Let's try it. So we're going to type in a simple text. Let's type in Merlin's beard. We change the color, we change the font. Now let's save it. Or you can simply just close it. It will also save it automatically since this is a cloud document. Let's get back to Unmesh. Let us see if that is updated. Seems like our friend has edited the image. If I open this, and here we have the edited version. By the way, the download didn't take time because it seems like only the edited version was changed. So that was smart. So pretty good. So that, my friend, was invite to edit feature. Let me share with you one more cool thing about it. So let's copy the link. So I pasted the link right here. And by the way, if you're signed in, you can also edit the document on a desktop. You don't even have to open Photoshop. It has basic functions, but it can be done. As you can see, you have access to the layers, the curves adjustment layer, all of that stuff. You can change the text. So if you go to the text layer, you can probably change it. So there you go. It is exactly like Photoshop. It is Photoshop, but a smaller version of it. And for making on-the-go changes, perfect. The next feature is an extension of invite to edit, and that, my friend, is share for review. And it does exactly that. It shares your document for review so that people can comment, they can mark specific areas and give feedback. Now, there's a greater advantage in share for review as opposed to invite to edit. And that is, you don't have to save it as a cloud document. It can be a locally stored document as well. For example, in this case, we were designing a thumbnail and let's say we want some feedback on it. So we're going to go to share and share for review. So in this section, which says who has access, you can choose anyone with the link can comment and click on create link. Keep in mind, this is a local document, doesn't have to be on the cloud. So here's an incognito window. We have not signed into anything. And even if we paste this link right here, you can simply add a comment and mark things as well. So let's say I want to mark this area and click on submit. Now you can choose to sign in or simply continue as guest. So I'm going to type in Harry Potter, and there we have a comment from Harry Potter. It says needs improvement. And if I hover over it, it just shows where we need improvement. Some people have complained that these sudden blue buttons here and there might be distracting. So for them, you can go to Edit and Preferences. And inside of Interface right here, you can simply turn on Neutral Color Mode. Once you check that, hit OK, have a look. That blue goes away and it's a simple neutral button. Now, by the way, as we opened up the preferences in the previous example, you might have noticed something new. Also, if you are on a Mac, it should be under Photoshop and then Preferences. On Windows, it is Edit and then Preferences. So let's open up anything, and this is something new. You can now search Preferences. If you're looking for, let's say, History States, just click on that and it highlights that, and you can adjust it from right here. The photo restoration filter was earlier only in the beta version, but right now it's in the main version of Photoshop 2023. So let's go to Filter, Neural Filters, and we do have some new controls. So let's turn on photo restoration, and it is pretty fast. I'm not speeding up anything. Now you have new controls here. So Enhance Face is now a slider. So you can choose how much you want the new face to be in, new constructed face. So this is the old one. This is absolutely the new one. You can find something in between, up to you. And as usual, you can reduce the scratch, do some more adjustments. We have made a complete video about it. You can watch it right here. The next feature is not exactly a 2023 feature, but this feature was launched in June. So here we have this bottle, and here we have this label which we want to curve around the bottle. Now, up until now, it was kind of impossible to do so perfectly. We had created a video on how to do it, but even then, all we did was pressed Controller Command T and then went to warp and then manually kind of created that. Just like this. The problem with this technique is that it doesn't curve completely around the edge. So there's a new warp setting right now, and that is cylinder. Perfect. Click on that and it perfectly curves around the edge. Now let's adjust it right here. You can simply adjust the curvature. You can have different curvature at the bottom and at the top. Now, at the moment of recording this video in my system, there's a bug right here where this point just doesn't move. Let me do that again to show you what it does. So let's get back to how it was. Controller Command T, right click on it, choose warp, and then choose cylinder. Now you have this point in the middle. If you bring it to the center, this gets squished, and if you take it apart, this gets stretched. That's all. Right now, the bug is that it just gets stuck right there. So Adobe needs to fix this. Apart from that, this is fine. Now you can choose to manually adjust it further. It's all up to you. So you can go to custom, and now you can just manually adjust it. If the bottle is curved, you can do that. You can just do anything, any sort of crazy stuff like that, all up to you. So we're going to leave it at that and change the blend mode to multiply. And there we have it, the perfect curve. Now we needed to adjust that a little more. Just wanted to show you the cylinder warp. Now, if there was some text, let me show you how perfectly it rounds up around the edge. Have a look. This was just impossible before. Have a look. Because around the edge, it should be acceleratingly squished to infinity, right? And that is what is achievable with this warp option right there. The next feature is also not 2023 feature, but it has been recently launched in Photoshop Beta, and there have been very few videos about it. And that is multiple document content aware. So here we have an image of this lady wearing glasses. We have another image without the glasses. So let's say I want to remove these glasses. We can do it very easily with content aware, where you can sample from the other image. So with the help of the lasso tool, we're going to make a rough selection around it like that. Now let's go to edit and then content aware fill. Now by default, of course, this does a pretty poor job because this doesn't have anything else to sample from. So in additional document section, let's choose the no glasses JPEG, hit OK. And let's see what it does. And bingo, done. Now, in case if it didn't do a perfect job, you can also use these points. Click on that and you can tell Photoshop this point, let's pick a corner of an eye. This point relates to, let's zoom in right here, this point. So you can be perfect about it. And again, create another point. You can create up to 4 points. This point, this corner of the eye, relates to this point right there. So it can be even more perfect. So you can have 2 more points for the eyebrows, but this to me looks fantastic. Hit OK, and there you have it. Perfectly perfectly replaced controller command D. Even if you zoom in, take a look. This is so darn good. You cannot even tell. So it is in the new layer. There you go. Just amazing. The next feature is a set of camera raw features which are pretty out of this world. I think everybody knows this, but we need to cover it in this video. Let's make a copy of the background layer and let's go to filter and then camera raw filter. Now before we do that, do not forget, convert for smart filters, hit OK so that you can change the values later. Filter, camera raw filter. Now here's the highlight. You can make a hell lot of selections right here. You can select the subject, you can select the features of the subject, you can select everything. So first of all, we selected just the subject and we're going to increase the exposure slightly so that we have more attention towards it. You can also select the background. So click on plus, select background, and we're going to decrease the exposure right here to have more attention towards the subjects, and also decrease the contrast. And just that little change makes a hell lot of difference. So here is the before and here's the after. More attention towards the subject. I think we need a little more contrast on the subject. So let's increase that as well. That looks good. Now what about the features? Let's create a new mask. Now inside of that, you can select different people. You can select the lady right here or the man. Now Photoshop even detected the hand of the man, which is pretty wild. Actually, Camera Raw did it. It's also in Lightroom, by the way. So let's select this person and we can select every aspect of this person. So let's go with face, skin, eyebrows, and lips. You can also choose to create separate masks from it, but we're going to create combined. Click on create and now you can modify it in any way you want. So let's scroll down. You can increase or decrease the texture or the clarity. So let's decrease the texture, make it a little softer, increase or decrease the clarity. All up to you. Hit OK. Done. Now that's not a fantastic edit, I know. I'm just making a point here. You also have the new Content Aware Remove tool in Camera Raw. Have a look at this. They're all just vibing. So let's go to Healing section right here. And here's the tool, Content Aware Remove. Let's paint over this guy right here. And there you go. He's gone. If you're not satisfied with this result, you can also click on Refresh. And there you go. Even better result. So you can keep on hitting refresh until you're satisfied with one of these results. Let's say I'm happy with that. And it's done. Hit OK. Gone. So that's what you do when one of the band members choose to go solo. Last but not the least, the final update is simply a simplified version of DALL-E, which generates images, more so backgrounds, with text. So first of all, let's just remove the background. So you can use the PiXimperfect compositing panel and simply click on remove the background, one click. You don't really have to do it. This is just cheap marketing. You can just make a selection and just create a mask. Now let's select the background. Let's go to filter, neural filters, and simply turn on backdrop creator. And you can type in whatever you want. By default, there is gold and black paint swirling. You can click on create and it just generates those images. There you go. Now keep in mind, all of these are being processed in the cloud. And it says that you might have some usage limits. So I don't know what those limits are. Adobe is not clear about that. So let's type in futuristic cityscape blurred. That's what happens when you work with a beta app. Anyway, so let's click on create. And by the way, if you don't like the results, you can just click on create one more time. And these are pretty good. Let's go with this one. Let's see what it does. It looks good. This one, no, it shows halos around the hair. If you don't like that, click on create again. This seems to be nice. We can go with this. And by the way, there's this variety slider. The variety slider is at 0. Everything, as you can see, will be super related and very, very similar. And if the variety slider is at 100, everything right here seems to be super unrelated and different. So that's all for this video. If you want more features like one-click import and arrange, check out the PiXimperfect compositing panel. You can simply go to your Creative Cloud application, search for PiXimperfect, and simply click on Get. That's all. At least get access to the free features, and that's the end of my marketing. Now this, my friend, is a huge warning. If you want to save yourself some sanity, please don't use the Photoshop's latest version as your main version where you do all your projects. Always keep one last version and work on that. And if you do need the new features, you can switch to the latest version, apply those features or whatever you want to do, and then get back to the previous version, because we all know what's going to happen. So just a warning. So that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And it's crazy how the image editing industry is moving towards artificial intelligence. We can embrace it or ignore it. It's up to you. But here's an amazing video that you can watch on how you can use AI and Photoshop to remove anything, just about anything from a photo, no matter how complex that is. So check it out. Thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss any other future tips, tricks, or tutorials. I'll see you in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.